This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
Actually, this is Wretched Radio with your host, Tully and Friel. I just walked by a mirror. My V-neck is a little VE. I'm sorry for that if you're watching on the video machine. That wasn't intentional.
It's a capital V-neck?
It's a plunging V-neck. And we've seen that before. And I don't want to be looking like that. Hey, speaking of looking at, did you watch the commercials for Super Bowl Sunday? It's always an interesting story. That I'm sure the secular radio stations, they're talking about which one was best, which one was funniest, which one maybe had the best impact. Perhaps if it's a business show, they're talking about what was their target audience, what were they trying to get the audience to do, what was the call to action, was it a hard sell, soft sell? Not our interest. I'm interested in theology. Saw a couple of commercials that had some theology. One was Toyota. No, they got into it, Toyota. I think it had to do, though, with the Olympics. But it was for Toyota. At any rate, a priest picks up the rabbi picks up the priest who picks up the Buddhist monk. They all get into the car. They go to the game and see we're all in this together because of the Olympics.
Yep.
Now, maybe they just meant, hey, when it comes to we're all on the same team. Okay, I couldn't help but wonder if the message wasn't we're all the same religions, basically. Kind of wondered about that. There were one or two other commercials that did seem to have a message that is being taught a lot these days, and it's the message of inclusion. It is the message of postmodernism. You can love... What was the one where they said they showed the babies, and it doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter what sex, it doesn't matter who you're going to love, it doesn't. Yeah, you're great, you're wonderful, we're all the same, and morals don't have any bearing on us.
I only caught part of that because I was flipping back and forth between a Cagney and Lacey marathon.
Now you said that with a straight face, and I'm really I
really was.
That's a sentence that's never been uttered on the planet before. I was flipping back and forth between the Super Bowl and a Cagney-Lacey marathon.
I like Cagney and Lacey. Sue me. They're going to reboot it, by the way.
Oh, good, because there were so many unanswered questions. So we're watching these different commercials, and I'm thinking, well, there it is, a taste of the worldview that is being taught in schools across the country. For instance... Americans who practice yoga contribute to white supremacy, says a Michigan State University professor. You're going to hear this.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
So yoga has now become an alt-right thing?
To be honest, I read this a couple of times and I went, I have no idea. Need to remember what a lot of this is. A lot of this is white supremacy. Remember. The worldview of suppression was formulated by white people. It tends to be white Christian males. This is in reaction to the Enlightenment, that the Enlightenment thinkers, to whom people give credit, they were white, they maybe professed to be Christian, or they were Roman Catholic, and all it did was oppress minorities, it oppressed women, it oppressed the poor. Therefore, all things white and Christian need to be uprooted and done away with. It's neo-Marxism at play also. Neo-Marxism, it's not equality through the typical factors, the way that Karl Marx originally intended. It's by bringing it down to gender issues, racial issues, and that there should just be equality, and that includes, therefore, socially. So the equality push that we see also has its tentacles into social issues, which is why, if you recall the Jordan Peterson interview, a lot of it was about pay equity between men and women. This particular professor at Michigan State University stating, you got to give yoga back, I guess. Shrina Gandhi, a religious studies professor at Michigan State, they've been in the news a lot lately. Americans who practice yoga are contributing to white supremacy and promote the yoga industrial complex.
I'm sorry?
I know. This is just going to be a bit of a head-scratcher. But notice also the inconsistency in the worldview. It's not hard. White Americans should learn yoga's history, acknowledge the cultural appropriation they engage in. Okay. So we can't do anything that originated in a different culture.
Correct.
I guess nobody's going to be eating pizza except the Italians. I guess.
Or the Germans, because we were friends.
Okay. No, that's not going to work. All you can eat is sauerkraut, and you can't. By the way, you can have hamburgers because I think that came from the Duke of Hamburg, who came up with that idea.
Let's go with that.
I had a sausage and sauerkraut pizza, so I'm a double offender.
Apparently.
Or half an offender because I'm half German.
So they engage in the possibility. So acknowledge the cultural appropriation. White Americans should learn yoga's history, acknowledge the cultural appropriation they engage in, and possibly reduce the cost of yoga class for poor people. A group that often includes people of color and recent immigrants, such as Indian women to whom the practice rightfully belongs. No, that's not karma, madam. If they're poor, they shouldn't be able to afford things, and they should stay there. Remember, that's what Hinduism teaches. By the way, why should white people have to share their classes if we're not supposed to be appropriating? I can't keep any of this straight. The two people who authored this article said the explosion of yoga studios, yoga videos, apps, yoga pants, and other yoga swag is evidence of the misappropriation of yoga that is part of systemic racism built on the labor of black people and people of the global south. Do you hear it? Suppression, 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 suppression. You can't take their stuff. That's more suppression. This is taking away from people because you're white, you're stronger, and that's all you do is oppress people. Are we following along? We would argue one of the goals of white supremacy is to buffer white people from the pain that comes from the process of exchanging cultural grounding for the unearned power and privilege of whiteness. You can only understand this if you've taken the class. This modern-day trend of cultural appropriation of yoga is a continuation of white supremacy and colonialism, maintaining the pattern of white people consuming the stuff of culture that is convenient and portable while ignoring the well-being and liberation of Indian people. Can you spell neo-Marxism? That's what this is. The language a bit foreign to you, but if you just keep in mind, white people bad because they were the oppressors, and we need equality in every realm. Unless, of course, it's convenient. Given a deeper analysis of yoga, Gandhi said, few people make the connection between their attraction to yoga and the cultural loss their ancestors and relatives experienced when they bought into white-dominant culture in order to access resources. White yoga practitioners and teachers can engage in yoga in a decolonizing way that reduces harm and seeks greater cultural accountability. I don't know what that looks like either. That's really not the point. You say this is a bunch of foreign language. Get used to speaking it, because it is the predominant worldview that is being used on university campuses and, as we will hear in a moment, in grade schools, elementary, and kindergartens. You say you better have proof for that. Oh, I do. Back to Miss Yoga appropriation, angry professor woman, especially during this time when the underbelly of capitalism, white supremacy,
underbelly,
cis-heteropatriarchy, and xenophobia is being exposed. Oh, okay. It is imperative that everyone, especially those who have access to spiritual practices like yoga, ask different questions of ourselves and one another. We must ask, in what ways are we complicit in a system that arms people of color, queer and trans people, poor people, people with disabilities, and immigrants? You say, I had no idea. I just thought there were a lot of yoga studios popping up, of which Christians should not be participating. By the way, Matt Walsh, welcome to the struggle, Matt. It's real. Glad you're discovering that Christians shouldn't be doing yoga. It was nice to see that Matt Walsh, a Roman Catholic, talking about using sources like John MacArthur in his study of yoga. Yoga, rightly understood, it's not a practice for Christians. You want to stretch? Stretch. But don't call it yoga. Don't do the breathing components that have spiritual components to them. And please don't try to Christianize it any more than you can do Buddhist Lord's Supper. They don't go together. Matt, congratulations. Hope you enjoyed those emails. Because Wow. I have a pretty good sense of what he's been receiving. This woman is demonstrating the worldview that is going on. It's not just at Michigan State. It is in every government institution. You say, where is this coming from? It's been fomenting for years, but really you can thank postmodernism. Most of the postmodern professors that forward this, the philosophers rather, they're dead, but their ideas live on. Are they pernicious? Yeah. It is a neo-Marxist worldview. It's postmodernism. We'll just mix in a little postmodernism. There is no truth. Here's a little Marxism, but we got to modernize it because nobody seems to be buying it. So we'll make it about races. We'll make it about genders. And we will force it down students' throats, including in a high school in Edina, Minnesota. Next on Wretched Radio. Don't forget, if you would like to hear the entire daily broadcast, simply visit wretched.org, go to iTunes, figure out your favorite Android listening platform, and you can listen to the entire program every single day, downloaded to your listening device for free. Well, thanks to our monthly supporters called the Gospel Partners. If you'd like to partner with us, we'd be very, very grateful. Simply visit wretched.org.